Greetings and welcome back to Room 303 and our chats with Emily as we are calling our readings through the poetry of Emily Dickinson. We are in the Johnson edition and we turned out a poem 804. No notice gave she, but a change. Now, this is for us another one of those poems where we don't know exactly who it is that Emily's referencing, but this is another poem about meeting death. Now, we've commented on Emily as being that amazing poet of death and dying, not always in a macabre way or a gothic way, but rather often in an exploratory way. I do want to remind you that we already said that when Emily was 21, she wrote to her pal James Humphrey and she said the following, quote, "The other day I tried to think how I should look with my eyes shut and a little white gown on and a snowdrop on my breast, and I fancied I heard the neighbors stealing in so softly to look down on my face, so fast asleep, so still." Imagining, even as early as 21, what's it like to be dead? And she speculates often on others, and especially women dying. You'll maybe remember when we did 150, she died. This was the way she died. And when her breath was done, took up her simple wardrobe and started for the sun, her little figure at the gate. The angels must have spied, since I could never find her upon the mortal side. Now, the assumption here is that you've been following our stuff at learnstrong.net. Down that left-hand side, Chats with Emily's our playlist. Hopefully you've worked through our set of introductory comments, as well as the preceding 803 poems. We just finished with 803, who court obtained within himself. Now, Emily's response to death is often a defiant response. In other words, she will be representing individuals who are not intimidated by the experience of death. This is how she says it. "No notice gave she, but a change, no message but a sigh, for whom the time did not suffice that she should specify. She was not warm, though summer shone, nor scrupulous of cold, though rime by rime the steady frost upon her bosom piled. Of shrinking ways she did not fright, though all the village looked, but held her gravity aloft and met the gaze direct. And when adjusted like a seed in careful fitted ground unto the everlasting spring, and hindered but a mound, her warm return, if so she chose, and we, imploring, drew, removed our invitation by, as some she never knew." Notice her capitalizing of some in the final line. The idea here is there's this juxtaposition between the rest of us who go on living because we haven't a choice in the matter, she suggests, and, of course, the passing of this amazing woman who we don't know who it is that she's talking about. Notice, though, we begin with two no's repeated in a row. No notice, there was a change, obviously death here. No message, but a sigh, that final sigh. For whom the time, notice capitalized, did not suffice that she should specify. For Emily, the great poet of time, and we commented on this in earlier poems a number of times, Emily's always interested in how death makes time this very strange figment of our imagination. And then the ironies, right? She wasn't warm, even though it was summer. She wasn't cold, even though it was cold. Why? Because of the shrinking ways. She, however, did not fright. Now, this is interesting to say. Are we talking about as she was dying, she was not afraid, or after she is dead, she is no longer afraid of either hot or cold? You can read it either way. But then she mentions the village. We'll get to the we here in a little bit. Though all the village looked, and we're assuming Amherst here, but held her gravity aloft. You'll remember gravity from poem 45, and met the gaze direct. Now, again, there's a certain defiant tone in this poem, right? A direct gaze. And then she'll talk about, of course, the burial. And when adjusted, amazing here simile, like a seed in careful fitted ground, unto the everlasting spring, notice capitalized E and S, and hindered but a mound. Now we're back to warm. From earlier in the poem, she was not warm. Her warm returned, if so she chose. Now, that's maybe the most enigmatic phrase of the whole poem. if so she chose, again, the defiance or the individuality of the game that Emily is playing here. And then she'll say it, and we imploring, note capitalized, imploring Drew removed our invitation by, as some she never knew. This is interesting, the observation again made. We've seen this so many times in her poems, that the person who passes goes on, in this case to everlasting spring, if she so chooses. But for the rest of us, for the rest of the inhabitants of the village, whoever knew or did not know her, the question of the knowing or knowledge is central here, as she never knew. Again, there's a suggestion maybe that a good number of the people left remaining really didn't know who she was. Obviously interesting given the one writing this is Emily. Now when we get to poem 1100, she'll say it this way. It's a very similar poem. The last night that she lived, it was a common night, except the dying. This to us made nature different. We noticed smallest things, things overlooked before by this great light upon our minds. Italicized this to her. As we went out and in between her final room and rooms where those to be alive tomorrow were a blame that others could exist while she must finish quite, a jealousy for her arose, so nearly infinite. We waited while she passed, it was a narrow time. Too jostled were our souls to speak, at length the notice came. She mentioned and forgot, then lightly as a reed bent to the water, struggled scarce, consented, and was dead. And we placed the hair and drew the head erect, and then an awful leisure was believed to regulate. It is compelling how in such an economy of language, Emily can draw these powerful images in our mind. Well, at 2a, the message here, I think, is that if you are going to meet death, meet it, if you will, defiant or head on, or direct, to use her language. At 2b, I love this language of defiance, again, the direct. At 3a, well, we mentioned poem 1100. I am interested in Scrooge and the Christmas Carol, of course, a text that Emily knew well, and the idea of how Scrooge is changed at the end of that text by meeting death. Finally, to ask at 3b a question to make this relevant to you. Who is someone that you know who you imagine was defiant or will be defiant in their final death? That is to say, very direct. And what about yourself? I hope Emily's challenging you. Thank you.